Welcome, Reds, to the 100% United pod. I'm your host, TC. Alongside me today is your co-host, Scott. How you doing, pal? Pretty eventful last few days.
Yeah, pretty eventful, pretty positive few days, I think.
Yeah,
it looks like we've certainly turned a corner, and a very small corner, but yeah, it's great to see.
definitely, Scott. Absolutely. And of course, today we have loads to get stuck into. We will be reacting, of course, to the announcement that Ralf Rangnick will be our manager for the rest of the season and will be involved with the club in the seasons to come too. Of course, look back over that game yesterday at Stamford Bridge, where United took back a point to Old Trafford against the league leaders. And we'll go through, of course, there was changes of tactics and suspicions that Rangnick was involved and all the rest of it. So we've got plenty to tuck into, Scott. First, just your instant reaction. We'll go through the match first, then chat about the managers. How did you feel when that was announced today? Just tell me how you felt.
Well, I mean, it's taken 5 or 6 days for it to actually be announced that when the press is so nailed on that's who it's going to be, then it's obvious. Basically the announcement was as usual, United the last ones to announce it. It seems a very smart decision, and
yeah,
I think if he's going to be Woodward's successor at the end of the season, I think that it could be a really positive, a good start to things to come. Hopefully, TC.
Yes. Well, I mean, he'll certainly be taking over some of the duties that Woodward and Murto have had, right? Of course, he's not going to take that whole position, but it makes more sense, definitely, from the footballing side. I mean, I said, didn't I? I said, I'd rather us go for a permanent manager, but if we're going to go interim, the only one that makes sense is Rangnick.
Yeah. I mean, he's
the only one.
He's going to add footballing experience to those two clowns who haven't got any footballing experience between them. And,
be nice.
Well, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Positivity about these days.
We need to get back in a habit, mate. Come on, let's get back in that habit.
I'm not. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not looking forward to Woodward stepping aside. I think I'm still looking forward to that day. I still think that this is a three-headed monster that we needed to fix. We've got rid of one of those, Woodward, and the Glazers are the other, and until all that happens, but little steps is what's going to take it, what's going to make it happen.
Definitely. And I actually thought you were talking about another two people. So actually that's fine. Yeah. Fill your boots, mate. Yeah, you say what you like about them. But listen, mate, I'm over the moon with it. I think it's a great decision as well. Forward thinking and just, I mean, getting someone who is just renowned for being a tactical genius is something this club needs at this juncture. So of course you mentioned that we took a while to announce it, and we still do this weird thing, don't we? Where we will announce someone, but we haven't really signed them.
That's what I mean.
We haven't really got Rangnick let because he hasn't got work permits. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and it was the same with Varane and many. Sancho, right? Sancho, we heard about it before the Euros, didn't we?
It took a year, didn't it? we learned about it the year before. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because one thing that you do have to say Rangnick has had the most experience with at Hoffenheim and at Leipzig is absolutely gutting the place and starting from the ground up. And it's interesting how, a few weeks ago they were saying, well, you can't hire Conte because he's going to come in and rip up the place and start from the ground up, but maybe only at a shallow level of the manager position. But when all of a sudden it's Rangnick who's going to go in and maybe shake up the club at the board level or at the directors level, then all of a sudden it's much more appealing to everyone.
Well, yeah, and it does make sense. I think that you have he's going to come in. He is going to tear up some trees. He is going to change the way things are done. But then he's also going to basically choose the next manager, isn't he? So he's going to take this time to start developing a style of play, and then he will choose the next manager, which is a bit different from Conte coming in, squeezing the best 2 years he can possibly squeeze out of the squad, and then toddling off, and he couldn't care less what happens after.
That's what
right?
I mean.
Rangnick is a different story.
Yeah, the upheaval is going to be a lot deeper. It's not going to be it's not as shallow as the team level. But you got to think, TC, I think 90% chance he already knows who the next manager is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course he does. Of course.
Who do you think it's going to be?
I wouldn't like to say yet. I want to see how he sets us up for a while first. Yeah, because
there is a pretty obvious finger, right?
yeah,
But
definitely.
let's see. I can't wait. Back in the days when you and I used to play Pro Evo, mate, and I used to try and play the geg press, and you say no, don't want it. I'm gagging for this, mate.
I don't think we were in the fit state to press as a team, mate.
Yeah, we didn't.
When we were playing Pro Evo together,
right.
we needed different tactics.
Well,
I don't think we could coordinate a press, mate.
Well, yeah, we did have Berber playing up front, didn't we, those days? And I don't think he's. Yeah, I think you're right. But I think that this is what we needed, and as we can see from the success of Klopp and the success of Tuchel, the German way is the way to go.
Yeah, and times change, and the German coaches of these years have been superb. And like I've mentioned before, Fergie was always changing. So if you don't think that Fergie wouldn't have been playing some different style of football now, you're off your rocker. He would have. So we're moving with the times. It's well overdue, and it's great news. It's just positive news, mate. Listen, let's get through the game.
Sorry, just quickly.
Yeah, go on.
While you mentioned Fergie, I actually remember back in 2009 we played Schalke in the semi-final of the Champions League, and I remember Fergie was so complimentary about Rangnick, and it was actually the first time I'd ever heard about him, and I was like, "Damn it, Fergie's talking such high praise about this guy." I don't know why I hadn't, but it's what 12, 13 years ago.
Yes.
But I remember how complimentary Fergie was back then, saying this guy's taken Schalke from a relegation team into the Champions League semi-finals. He's one of the greatest managers in Europe, and I remember how complimentary Fergie was about him too.
Yeah, we still tore him a new one though, didn't we?
We did, yeah. But I mean, we were playing Schalke at the end of the day. But
yeah, you're right though, and Neuer was in goal that day, wasn't he? That's the. Although Rangnick does say the keeper should touch the ball the least because he is going to be the worst footballer. So, but we'll get a bit more into Rangnick later. Yep. We will let's get through the game and let's go a little bit deeper on the influence that he is going to have. It did seem when the team came out he might already have an influence, didn't it, Scott? Now, questions have been asked. Carrick has denied them. His denial after the match didn't look like the most convincing denial I've ever seen in my life.
No, it was yeah. But you know what?
No.
But it's a bit unfair because as we know, TC, a lot of decisions are made during the 90 minutes that can change the course of the game, and Rangnick had no part about that. Michael Carrick, maybe. But, a 4-4-2 dropping Ronaldo, definitely screamed, with three defensive midfielders, definitely screamed something different, right?
It was very different to midweek, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It was very, very different. But at the same time, logically, if Rangnick has had conversations with Carrick and has had conversations with the club, it's obviously had conversations with the club, then... I mean, what job is Carrick basically looking for? A job working for Rangnick, right? Yeah. Whether that's this season or whether that's next season, Rangnick's going to be putting the football structure into place. So you're going to show you're up for pressing. You're going to show you're up for doing a few different things, right?
But he can't say otherwise. The Inland Revenue are going to be on him saying, you're working without a permit.
Exactly. Of course he can't. And it's possible. Like I said, it's possible that it's just an influence. Rangnick didn't tell him to do anything. He just said, "This is what I want us to do for the rest of the season."
And there's also
took it upon himself.
And there's also a chance that Michael Carrick was like, "Hey, Ralphie, how would you play this? I'd like to. I really respect you. I'd like to work with you. How would you play this?"
100%. And also, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that Rangnick likes pressing, right? Yeah. He likes playing in a different way. So why not set up that way and be a week further ahead? Makes logical sense for the club.
TC, it would have been daft if he didn't ask Rangnick. Yeah. So it's nailed on. But and you know what, pal? It worked.
Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah. Of course it did. Absolutely. And you know what? Going into this match, I question pundits all the time, of course. But you have these people who said, "Oh, I thought they were going to lose 3 or 4-0." It's like, I understand, like, when we played City, people thinking that. But do people not comprehend the influence that a whole stadium has on a team when the whole stadium is basically cheering for the opposition manager.
Yeah.
Like the situation we were in a few weeks ago is totally different from the situation we're in now.
Yeah, I mean, the house caved in, didn't it?
It did, and there is no saying how much. I mean, think about what the players think when you hear the opposition fan, the whole of Vicarage Road singing "Ollie's at the wheel." The players must have been like, "Oh my god, this is a
Get me out of
disaster.
here.
Get me off the
Yeah,
pitch."
get me out of here. Yeah.
Even if it's not you, right? If someone's outside your house shouting at your brother, you're still like, "Oh, please go away."
Yeah, that's embarrassing. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Even if you're nothing to do with it, pal. If you're in a restaurant and someone starts kicking up a stink, you're like, "Oh, I just want to get out of here." Yeah.
And especially if you like the guy. So if the players like the guy, so it was all caving in. So,
and they also they downplay just how good a squad we have. To be honest with you, and how well when Fergie used to say when a player gets sent off, it galvanizes the other 10 players. Galvanize. He used to use that word so much. Galvanize. And it's the same sort of thing that this last week, the win away at Villarreal to sort of was much more than 3 points, right? As against the team we couldn't beat in the Europa League, and it's sort of saying, well, actually, maybe with a different leader, we've got enough skill, that we could right these wrongs. And I think it was a big galvanizing moment, TC.
I totally agree with you, Scott. And actually, these two results are monstrous. I would say I think Keno went a bit hard on Carrick. I do agree with some of his sentiments in that, people have to carry the can for Ollie too. It's not just Ollie.
But you know what, TC? You know what? If you got sacked, I would stand up for you because he's got personal attachment to Ollie. He's his mate,
no, I know that.
And so it's Neville as well. They don't want to chuck him under the bus. So he's just. It's actually. It's to a fault now, isn't it? He's standing up for him. He's standing up for him to a fault.
I'm pretty sure you'd laugh at me if I got sacked, but
I'd put up for you if someone wanted to turn around and say he was crap. Even if I thought you were crap, I'd say no. It's the players. It's not his fault. He's trying his best. I mean, it's the same garbage.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But what I was going to say is that Carrick is actually it's an interim job. Like it's very, 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 very temporary. But to get us qualified in the Champions League and then to go to the league leaders, take a point back. Look, I wanted 3, of course I did. But Scott, if you offer me 1 point before the match, because of the situation the club's in, because I know Rangnick's coming in, I would have taken the point. Because the impression it's giving of us now is that, and this is the impression that we want, is that it was Ollie's fault, right? Because Ollie's gone now. So for the general impression to be that it was Ollie's fault is good for us because it means that the players and everyone else can just move forward freely, right? Whether it's true or not, doesn't matter. So getting that point, getting those 3 points and qualifying for the Champions League, it is a massive, massive fillip for the club going forward. If we had fallen through the floor,
it's a necessity. It's a necessity for the club.
Yeah. If we had lost these 2 games, Scott, then Rangnick's job becomes 1,000 times harder.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
it really does. It really does. And also, we need to put them in catchment.
What a difference a week makes, mate. Because if you just said if you had offered me 1-1 before we go to the league leaders away from home, I'd have taken it, mate. A couple of weeks ago, if you would have offered me 4-0, I probably would have taken it. Do you know what I mean? Like, what a difference a few weeks makes.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, we set up, as you say, in a different way. De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka, and of course we got our centre-backs out, haven't we? So Bailly and Lindelof in the middle, Alex Telles on the left, and then we had Matic, McTominay and Fred, and then we had Sancho, Rashford and Bruno Fernandes. What do you make of the lineup? Of course, look, in the last days of Ollie, we were trying 5 at the back to try and shore ourselves up, weren't we? Where 4 at the back with 3 in front of them is actually way, way, way more solid, isn't it? And I didn't ever think we were going to get overrun yesterday. I thought, we might lose. We could lose by 2 goals. But I never thought we'd get totally overrun just from seeing the lineup.
Yeah, it was, on paper, the most defensive lineup we could possibly play. Without Phil Jones being in there. But you know what? When needs must, we are going away from home to the league leaders who, again, I don't think, it would have been fantastic if we won the game. But truth be told, I don't think we honestly went there and set up to win the game. But as, I thought we
And
played. I thought we played great, and I thought it was actually probably the perfect formation for it. I thought McTominay and Fred were given a bit more license to go forward than they do when they usually play in a two. And I think that for a gameplay, it was fantastic to actually go into a game with a different game plan and a game plan specific for this game.
It was interesting, wasn't it?
It was
interesting. And like you say, look, we did start defensively, but people have to understand how low we have been. People have to understand how battered we've been. You don't come off batterings of confidence and just suddenly turn back into a world-class team. You need to build up to it. So
lest we forget we're down our first choice centre backs and our first choice left back as well. Probably got to say.
So on this occasion, I'm saying I'll settle for a draw. On another occasion, I might slam a manager for settling for a draw. So it's all about the moment in time and what it means. So
we're on the ropes. Absolutely.
Exactly. And you say it was defensive, and it really was, because there was times when McTominay would slip into a third centre back. Mm-hmm. Of course, Bruno basically played as false nine, didn't he? Mm-hmm. So your attacking midfielder is actually playing as a striker. Your midfielder is actually playing as a third centre back at times. But it made sense because we all know the danger of those Chelsea fullbacks, don't we? We know that they love to get in those positions and they turn into number 10s. And we had, of course, with McTominay tucking in there, we basically negated those fullbacks.
It's so weird. It's so funny, right? How the difference the result makes. Because if they had scored in the 94th minute yesterday and we had lost 2-1, then this game plan and these tactics of coming out negatively, it would have completely turned. But the fact that we actually got something from the game, looking in hindsight, it makes it all make sense. It's just strange how the result if Rudiger sticks that in the back of the net at the very end, this is all, this is a very different podcast.
Do you think Rangnick said to Carrick, would you do him a massive favour? Can you drop Ronaldo for me? Because I'm going to have to do it at some stage. And if you do it now, it's going to make it a lot easier.
Yeah, maybe.
He's my mate. No problems. I'll do that. But yeah, that was good as well. In that, we have to do that, Scott. There has to be games when Ronaldo doesn't play. Yeah. There has to be games where Bruno doesn't play. There has to be games when Luke Shaw doesn't play. We need to start using this squad, and that's something that the new boss is going to do, and excites me. We obviously started the match pressing way more than we do normally. We really did. I know Carrick said after the match that there's been a narrative that has been built up that we don't press, but it's nonsense. We do press.
No, and there are stats, unfortunately, there are stats that back it up.
I watch every single minute of United, right? Yeah. And it's nonsense.
Yeah.
I understand some of these journalists do not watch all the games, most of them actually. We know more about United than almost every journalist because they don't actually watch all the games.
But he's a diplomatic guy. Michael Carrick is a diplomatic guy, and
that was stupid.
Yeah,
that was stupid. It was daft because we don't. And actually, Rangnick's philosophy on pressing is that you can't half press, just in the same way as you can't be half pregnant. You either press or you don't. Simple as that. And how many times I said that to you on the pod, Scott?
Yeah.
We do this little half press. There's a little nibble.
Yeah. Or it's one or two people and then they pass out of it, and then and the worst thing is, to be honest with you, is the amount of times that you've seen Ronaldo be the one pressing, and then when it gets passed out and no one else is backing him up, he throws his hands up and it's like he's complaining about. But it's actually him that is doing a lot of the pressing. So this whole, it's funny, isn't it, that Klopp used this tactic a few years ago. Now it's like everyone's this is the Bible now, and everyone's got to do this, and if you don't do it, you're rubbish. And it's just interesting how things change so vehemently.
The great thing is, Scott, is that we are not getting someone who is going to try and imitate Klopp. We're getting the person who taught Klopp, right? We're getting an innovator. So he's going to come and he's going to have an idea. You think that Rangnick doesn't have an idea of how to get the best out of Ronaldo and how to get the best out of other players that have not been performing? Of course he does.
Yeah, it's funny. He's got a plan. It's funny how the journalists are clinging on to that one question they asked him 5 years ago, saying, well, who would you sign, Messi or Ronaldo? Which is a ridiculous question. And he probably just didn't want to give in to their farcical questions and demands. And
I will add a bit of context to that, Scott. It was so what he was asked is that who would he, you know, because he was at the Red Bull clubs, right? So they had quite a bit of cash. They were saying who would you sign, Messi or Ronaldo? I think that was a question, and he said they're both too old and both too expensive, right?
Yeah.
So what he's saying is to buy a 30-year-old and pay a world-class transfer fee.
And at that time, it would have
Doesn't make
taken
sense.
hundreds of millions to get them.
Exactly. On a free and happy to come back to the club he started, it's a different story.
Yeah.
Totally different story. So the context to that was basically, I mean, well, I'm not going to spend. And of course, at that time, we didn't know that Messi and Ronaldo would have the longevity that they are having. But look, we were pressing, obviously, from the start. We're obviously a totally different shape to usual. We still did concede a Ziyech chance on the 3rd minute, and then Hudson-Odoi had a golden chance. David De Gea with a really, really good save with his foot.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't look that good, but it was a top save. But it was in those early stages the usual. I would say teams in the top 4. You know, I still see us in that group, just feeling each other out.
Yeah, I suppose so. I think we were taking a few more punches than we were given, but
we were.
I have to say that as a unit, you know, we were defending for each other. It was good. There was good teamwork between the. You know, it was good to see.
The focus in these last couple of games has been totally on another level, hasn't it, than what we saw in previous weeks. So another good sign. And De Gea had to thwart Werner on the 12th minute right out of his box. He has been a bit more on the ball, hasn't he, in the last sort of year or two, in terms of monitoring that area outside his box, pretty much since Dean Henderson came in and put some pressure on him.
I thought you were talking about Timo Werner. I was like, what have you been watching, TC?
Timo Werner, dear me. Oh, hell. I think we said he was quite good, didn't we, on the pod before he went to Chelsea?
That was another one you were disappointed that Liverpool were getting, weren't you?
Was I?
When he was nailed on that he was going to go to Liverpool, and you were pretty sad about that.
He's actually quite a good player, though, isn't he? He's just an awful finisher these days. I don't know what's happened to him.
Yeah, who knows?
But he certainly causes some problems. But yeah, we had to wait a while until we really got stuck into them. We had a nice slick counter-attack on the 21st minute. Bruno pulled a shot well wide. Back to Sancho is a way better option there. And he does have that in if I was going to criticise Fernandes, I would say that when he doesn't get too much of the ball and he doesn't get a sniff, he will waste an opening just to have some kind of dig at goal. And they are normally, I would call it a sighter, but it was a pretty bad one.
Yeah, that was a bad one, yeah.
It was pretty bad. And he does need to think about that, right? And I think that's another thing the new boss will come in and say.
His decision making. I mean, look at the decision last week to hoof that slice clearance in the 2nd minute that led to their penalty.
Yes.
He does have, he tries to play Hollywood balls when they don't necessarily need to be done. But, you know,
Hollywood shots too.
His output is unbelievable. And he's the last player I'm going to dig out.
Precisely.
But you do have to see he hasn't scored in 15 games, pal. Which is when you think about the days that we were just another assist, another goal, this and that. Well, I mean, it's pretty amazing.
We haven't had a penalty since blooming Ronaldo arrived either, apart from that first one, right?
Yeah, no, we haven't,
because we don't know who takes them.
Yeah, since Klopp. Yeah,
we literally don't know who takes the penalties.
Yeah, you're right. Since Klopp came out, was it Klopp came out and said that we get too many penalties? We haven't had we've had one since. Yeah,
he did. Look, pal, so, I mean, it was obviously better to go back to Sancho, but if anyone's going to have a dig, Ronaldo, Fernandes, I'm all right with that. We'll get to Fred later, won't we? So on the 26th minute, we had a couple of crosses whizzing across the face of our goal. At this stage, I felt they were warning shots. I felt we had to tighten up pretty sharpish, otherwise we were going to fall a goal behind. And we know the way Chelsea sling those crosses into the box, it's pretty relentless.
Yeah, it was behind the sofa kind of thing for a while, wasn't it? All those, you just knew they were getting closer and closer. And we got to say, Bailly and Lindelof, they do play well together when they need to.
They're all right on an emergency call out, aren't they? You know, like your back's against the wall. Look, we've got a big game. Can you do it for one game? If they play 5 games together, it would probably be Keystone Cop stuff, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I don't want to dig too many people out. But on current form, I think if we had had a different left back and different left centre back, we might not have gone in at half time with a clean sheet.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And again, players' confidence is shattered and the team's dynamic is shattered. So we need to build people back up.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those players that people have been slagging off and saying are useless and are never good enough for United will be amazing in a few months. Some of them.
So.
Some of them won't, but some of them will.
I hope so.
You know?
I never try and say people are rubbish, but I do try and say when they're not playing very well. Yes. You know, I don't like to get put, but there have been, you know, a lot of them have been playing rubbish for the beginning of this season. You know, only at the beginning of midway through the first half, the Chelsea game, they said, "Oh, Manchester United enduring their worst start to the season since." Oh, well, it was actually 2 years ago under Ole Solskjaer, but before that, it was 26 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, mate. Look, they hit the bar on the 30th minute. Rudiger with a shot from downtown, and De Gea. I thought he'd done something bad to his elbow. He went into the post, didn't he?
Yeah,
but it was all right. Made another save from Hudson-Odoi as well. And after 35 minutes, Scott, the passes in the final third were 35 to Chelsea and 3 to United.
Yeah. Backs against the wall.
Big old whack, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. But we weren't. But I didn't feel like we were under siege. It was. Yeah, sure. They were landing a few jabs, but there was no hooks landing or anything tasty at all. Certainly no uppercuts.
No, but it was one-way traffic. It wasn't coming at us quite as fierce as it could have been, but it wasn't, as you say, 35-3 in
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is a lot. Sancho was almost in over the top on the 41st. Fred had a penalty shout on the 44th, and then De Gea saved from James's free kick as well. So De Gea had to make quite a few saves in that first half. Like I say, we did get a few jabs to the face, but again, getting in at halftime, clean sheet. And I know it's easy to say, right, after the match is finished, and like you say, we're rewriting history a little bit, but that's the way it works, isn't it? If you take the points, if you keep the clean sheets, then all those half chances, they don't really matter in the end.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. When you, that's what the tactics.
Fine margins, Scott. Fine margins.
I was thinking. I was trying to think what the words were. You're right. Yeah, fine margins. Yeah.
And if you get those fine margins right, you win trophies.
Yeah, and if you don't, it's just about luck.
That's the craziest thing, Scott. Looking back, because you know, every sportsman, every coach, every brilliant sportsman, a brilliant coach I've ever known or studied or whatever, they always talk about that extra margin, like fine margin, the extra percentage, but they don't talk about it as in it's luck. They talk about we are going to get that extra fine margin. We are going to get that extra, like, part of a percent to then win the match. That's the key. That's the difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's always been a difference. So to use it as an excuse is crazy.
But it's the 1% in the 101%, right? It's that extra 1%. We're not talking about when you're playing at 60% and the fine margin is between, it's either 60 or 55. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, those are the margins we were dealing with. And now you can see, even after 2 days of tactics from a fella on the phone in Germany, we played twice as well as we played in 2 years.
That's the official story now, you're right? Why didn't he have Ollie's number? He could have been on the iPad for the last couple of years.
Oh, mate.
He could have been he could have been contacting him and sorting it out. But look, Scott, anyway, all jokes aside, we got through that first half, 0-0. And we knew, of course, we still had the ammo to come off the bench. That's the good thing as well with dropping a superstar, isn't it? You've then got a superstar coming off the bench and everything that brings too. But
you know, over here they talk about in American football, when a team's coming up against a team much better than them, they just go out and they try and win quarters, right? So they just try and win the first quarter, and then just try and win the second quarter, and then I felt like that at half time, that we had gone out and we hadn't lost the first half, and we still had something to play for at the second half. And it was much better than I was expecting. TC, as I said, I thought we were. A few weeks ago, I looked at this on the map and thought that this was probably harder than City at home, and we were going to get, we could have got smashed.
Yeah. Well, in rugby, they call the subs the finishers now rather than the subs, right?
Yeah.
So that you've got subs, And I've always thought this. It's strange the way football doesn't do this at all. Like in rugby, you will have subs who are just made for 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You just bring them on for the last 20 minutes. They couldn't last 80. Sometimes someone gets injured after 10 and they're having to drag that body around the field for 80 or 70 minutes. But yeah, it's something football's never really cottoned onto, that you can have an even more elite athlete for a shorter amount of time, just like you're talking about American football. Of course, the reason why they're such amazing athletes is because they only play for tiny pieces of time and then they go off and rest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
But listen, 0-0, half-time, as always. I'll point you in the direction of our friends over at vintageunitedshirts.com. If you want an old classic Manchester United shirt, names, numbers, all the classics from back in the day, from Cantona through to Rooney, Giggsy, Ronaldo, of course, they're all there. Use our promo code United100 for 10% off across the store. And we've got a competition coming up for you as well. So on the next pod, the Arsenal pod on Thursday, I'll give you the details with that, and keep an eye out on our Instagram at United100 podcast. On the story, I'll put the competition up there as well in a post. So keep an eye on that. If you'd like to become a member of the pod, then get over to patreon.com/United100. Look at the different every time, mate. Old school. And there's different tiers on there, and yeah, we really appreciate the support, of course. So if you love the pod and you've been a long time listener, then get over there, have a look, and see if you fancy it.
Or even if
Scott,
you hate it and you want to donate,
anyway.
and you want to donate to us. Hey, did you ever get any responses from those people a few months ago who gave me 1-star reviews because they says I was going too hard in on the manager?
You know what, Scott? That's a fair point.
Did you ever get anyone coming back saying, "Oh, sorry, maybe we should have listened to you, Scott, the voice of reason"?
Yeah, they were saying you were very negative, mate, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, big time. Yeah, because
no, they said you had it was an Ollie out agenda, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Yep.
It definitely blooming wasn't. I tell you that for nothing.
Just common sense. It just took everyone. It took everyone a bit longer than everyone else to realise it, I think. But when you look, mate, you know what? I was talking to you. Sorry to interrupt you, but I was looking back at Soccer Base, looking at the actual results, and when you look at that drop off after Paris,
it was so bad.
How did anyone survive that?
It was so
let
bad.
alone get given the full-time job. It's crazy.
It was so bad, Scott. And as I said on the previous pods, we did discuss it, in that next season, that this was going in a bad direction. But also, I think, when people give those reviews and whatever else, they probably haven't listened to us pod after pod. So if you listen to every pod, you will realise that we look at every angle we can possibly look at, and we just want what's best for United. So, if you listen to every pod, you will know that. So maybe one week, you might have been a bit harsh on Ollie, and then the next week you might have been saying it's all right, but some guys jumped on, had a listen, thought you're a bit of a jackass, and dropped us a bad review. So there you go, mate.
I just wondered that if they're probably not still listening because they hate me so much. But if they are, maybe they could review their review and maybe at least say give us 2 stars and say Scott's a jackass, but TC's not so much, and Ben's all right. So
we're going to get a spate of 1 stars now, aren't we, mate?
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
we actually got a. I must say,
me. You can say in your 5-star reviews that Scott's a jackass. That's absolutely fine. I don't mind that. Yeah,
exactly. We did get a lovely 5-star review in the last couple of days.
Good.
So I think it said that we are by some distance the best United podcast.
All right.
A very nice 5 stars. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
It is massively appreciated, and it really does help us. And it just for the first I don't know how long of doing this pod, you just get no feedback whatsoever.
Yeah.
No DMs, no you don't even, and then suddenly people say, "Oh, I really like your pod." You think, "Thanks, good," because I thought no one did.
It was funny because I think the very first message we ever got was someone said, "You two just call each other mate. Everything's mate this, mate that," and so you were like, "Great, we can't call each other mate anymore. Can't say pal, can't say mate." And then a few months later, it was like the third person who ever said something said, Why don't you two call each other mate anymore? I used to really like that. So
I couldn't believe it. It was ridiculous, wasn't it?
You just can't please anyone, let alone everyone.
We'll just be ourselves.
Exactly.
We'll just be ourselves.
Yeah.
Hate us or love us, just 5 stars all the time, all right? Look, after half-time, we came out. Let's get straight to it, Scott. You talk about Bruno sometimes doing a bit of a hoof that doesn't go anywhere, but he did 2 in this match that was superb. This one, first of all, dropping a massive up and under on Jorginho's head. And he did another one later on that almost got us through as well, both with his left foot.
Yeah.
Fair play.
Yeah.
Jorginho, I don't know what he was thinking there. You know you're the last man. There's so many other things you can do instead of control the ball there. That was a suicide mission, wasn't it, from the guy?
It was. But it's that had a good tactic. Bruno had a good idea with that. It wasn't just a bit of a. It wasn't just a hoof. He knew exactly what to do, and
he dropped it on him. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's obviously one of the best counter-attacking things is a 2-on-1, right? So when you can, it happened to us a few years ago at Istanbul, didn't it? Remember? So
was that 3 on none, wasn't it?
It was a 3-on-none, yeah, something like that. But it was a fantastic tactic, and Jadon, I mean, unbelievable. That's what we've been waiting 18 months, 2 years for, right?
Precisely.
That shimmy. Oh, I tell you what, I was doing the shimmy all day, TC.
It was superb, Scott, wasn't it? It was just so beautifully taken. And actually, I was mentioning before about, the clouds lifting and stuff. You just look at Jadon Sancho in the last couple of games, and again, you look back and you go, "Oh, how have we misused him so badly?"
Yeah, brand new signing.
Awful. It's a brand new signing. It was so bad the way we treat, with the way we've integrated him into the side. You look at him now, God, it's a different player.
You've got to actually be pretty thankful we didn't get him the previous summer, because he would have been on the bench with Donny for a year and he would have been out.
Yeah. But mate, beautiful celebration in front of United fans as well. He's loving it. He's a changed man, and he will be ready for Rangnick. Rangnick's going to love him. You think Rangnick doesn't know all about him from him being at Dortmund as well? That is fantastic. And of course, 1-0.
And it was funny as well, because I remember that year that everyone was saying now he doesn't want to sign for United because he's a Chelsea fan. Well, those celebrations said otherwise, didn't they?
Yes, and Ronaldo was there in the celebrations too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
So, people criticise him. I must say, and of course I'm biased, but I've watched Ronaldo in many, many matches, of course, across United, Juve, Madrid as well. And certainly in the Juve Madrid years, you would definitely see people score and Ronaldo not bother, or would walk over to celebrate, right? At United, he's a bit different, right? Of course, he's still this moody bugger that he is, of course, but he is more of a team player when he's at United. I've always thought that he was before, and he is when he's come back.
I think he loves United. I think we are so fortunate that he loves our football club, pal.
You know what though, mate? We made him, and he gave us back just a countless memorable moments. So it's like we made each other, didn't we?
No, absolutely. But what I mean is, if he felt as appreciated as he does at United, at Madrid or Juventus, he would have celebrated the goals.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. One thing I do have to say here, Scott, right? You said it was a 2-on-1, right? But it wasn't really, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Because
it was a 1-on-1.
Because Marcus Rashford was offside
the whole way.
I mean,
what's he doing?
Literally,
yeah, he made Sancho's mind up. So
Sancho didn't really do a shimmy, Scott. I'm sorry to spoil it for you, but he didn't. He was just about to pass for Rashford, and he was like, "Oh my God, he's offside." Oh, okay, there we go. I'll pop it in. Which shows what a great footballer Sancho is, because he's got that instinct to say, "Okay, I've changed my mind." Bang, goal. But Marcus Rashford, come on, pal. Are you? I tell you what, if Sancho had passed, Rashford's so lucky he didn't pass. Let's say that, shall we?
I tell you, Sancho's probably a bloody good dancer as well. Because yeah. Oh, can you imagine? Those hips don't lie, baby.
Wow. Yeah. Mate, in saying that, I would say that Marcus Rashford did look hell of a sharp in that second half.
He was so much faster than Sancho that he couldn't even slow down to Sancho's level. Bloody hell!
He forgot he was that far. He does look sharp. He does look in physical good shape. But come on, mate. I mean, it's just that is the easiest thing to do ever. And also, it's not like if it was Sancho trying to keep up with Rashford, you kind of think, okay, well, he was trying to run extra fast because he thought Rashford would gas him.
Yeah.
But Rashford knows he can catch Sancho up with the ball. Right? I mean, come on.
It was 40, 50 yards as well, pal. It wasn't as though it wasn't as though he's looking over the line
Mental.
at a split second. Yeah, it
It was
was.
mental. I saw it, and
I
then
was actually glad it happened because I was really happy that Sancho scored that goal,
me
and
too.
Rashford's already scored one of the best goals he'll ever score in that net.
Yes,
So give it Sancho for the rest of the season, pal.
all good for me, mate. All good for me. And I must admit, for those first few weeks of Sancho being at the club, the first few months, I've never felt so unattached to a mega money signing.
Yeah.
Right, like I just felt like he wasn't a United player, and I'm not criticising him at all. I had no.
It was kind of tough. He didn't have really a proper like confirmation, did it? Or that they had to do things undercover, and then he was on holiday. What am I trying to say? When a player gets signed, they have like a big bloody what's the word for it, TC? So I'm blanking on the word.
Unveiling.
Unveiling, that's it. He didn't have a proper unveiling, did he?
No, it was drawn out, and then Ronaldo signed.
Yeah.
So it was kind of pushed down the
and he went on holiday. That made you furious, yeah.
And I'm still furious about that.
He was probably given the time off, wasn't he? He was probably said, "Listen, you took a penalty for England in the summer. Don't worry about it. Have a few extra weeks off and just come back." And it's hard to say no to that, TC.
I'm looking forward to not seeing that anymore. I mean, Cavani's been off in South America, hasn't he? Recovering from an injury in the last few weeks. I mean, with all the rules changing with the pandemic and these kind of things, I'm looking at it thinking,
Sergio Romero Part 2.
He's crackers, mate.
Yeah.
It's crackers. But that's in the past now. So look, 1-0 up, another counter attack almost clicked shortly after. Rashford almost on the end of a Fred cross this time. We were more combative, weren't we, Scott? I think we set up in a different way, but also in the last couple of games, we've been a lot more. We've gone into tackles with the belief that we might come out with the ball rather than just for show.
If there's one word for that, TC, it's called effort. We've tried so much harder these last two games than we have in the last few years. You have to say,
which is so bad. Which is
it's
so
awful.
bad indeed.
But it's on paper. You can see the first 10. Those first 12 games under Ollie, he was, the distances covered were through the roof, and then they just completely plateaued and went off, and we never recovered.
Well, they went through the floor, didn't they? Because we became the team that ran the least and pressed the least. So, big difference. Ronaldo came on for Sancho on the 64th minute. And of course, we expected Ronaldo to come in quite soon. At that stage, I thought probably a better option would have been for
Rasha.
Yes,
Bruno.
I did.
Yeah.
At that stage, I thought maybe Rasha. When Lingard came on, I thought it should have been Bruno.
Mm-hmm.
I thought so, but look, Ronaldo on. Matic was pulling Cruyff.
Yeah,
Go on.
At least they're not like pre-made substitutions. I felt like every time a player would come off, they would come on for. You'd know exactly who they were coming on for. Like every player in the squad basically had a shadow who would come on for him if they weren't playing well. So at least we throw things around. Changed it up a little bit. Yeah, I was maybe surprised that Sancho came off as well, given he was maybe playing a bit better than Rashford, and he's probably a bit more confident, given he scored twice in the last 4 days.
But Rashford was looking pretty sharp as well. As I was saying, Matic was pulling Cruyff turns in the middle of the park. That was a pretty naughty little turn he did, wasn't it?
It was.
Now, rolling back the years, and then. We had about 3 minutes, didn't we, of set piece after set piece to defend.
Jesus,
and unfortunately, it ended with the ref pointing to the spot. Aaron Wan-Bissaka going in on Thiago Silva. It was so stupid, wasn't it? It was so stupid in this situation, Scott. We're a goal up. There's no danger whatsoever. The ball's going away from goal. It's a central defender. It's not like Messi's going to spin and do you. And although it was pretty soft in that Wan-Bissaka, he didn't make a load of contact. It was just so daft. To put yourself in that situation. Crazy.
He goes to ground very quickly. I mean, his slide tackling is so good that he will slide tackle at someone over anything, and you can't do that in the box, especially Thiago's looking for it. He's a very experienced player, and he's not going. Thiago didn't take the ball away to do anything with it. He was looking for a foul.
And really with Wan-Bissaka, he has to be perfect defensively.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, because I'm seeing these other fullbacks in the league now. You've got Reece James, who of course was playing. Your favourite Alexander-Arnold down at Liverpool, Cancelo. These fullbacks are better at attacking than most of our wingers, right? And yeah,
really?
most of our wingers.
All right.
At the moment, on current form,
All right.
take Sancho out of it.
Oh, I don't know about that. Yeah, you can keep that opinion.
Lingard, Rashford. Who else?
Greenwood.
Yeah.
Ronaldo.
Ronaldo's not our winger, is he? What I'm saying. Okay. Look, what I'm saying. Well, they've been far more productive than our wingers this season.
Yeah,
all of them.
Have been, yeah.
All right, all of them. Goals, assists, everything. So when you've got players like this playing for other teams, if you're going to have a Wan-Bissaka, fine, no problems, but he's got to be perfect defensively. He can't be the one that spunks the match for you, can he?
It usually is. That's why it was a bit of a shame, because he is he's not one I would point the finger to as one who's been responsible for a huge amount of goals. I mean, he is responsible for maybe quite a few, but not a huge amount. What I'm trying to say is, out of the 4 defenders or 5 to 6 defenders that we've played this season, he's definitely not one of the worst ones.
Yeah. But if he's not providing anything on the attacking side, he has to be perfect defensively. He really does. Ronaldo had a word with David De Gea before the penalty. Confidence is a weird old thing, isn't it, Scott? When Jorginho was lining up, I was pretty convinced De Gea was going to save it again. Yeah. Right? Couple of saves, or 3 saves, because he saved twice at Watford, didn't he? Mm-hmm. And suddenly, you believe in him again. His confidence is just the most weird and wonderful thing in football.
Yeah. He didn't have any for 5 years, yeah.
But he didn't save it, of course. Went the wrong way. So unfortunately,
pretty good penalty though. I think even if he went the right way, he might not have saved that.
It was very good. And then again, we had Bruno launching another up and under, and almost launching another counter attack. Right, Bruno was booked on the 77th, and he looked tired, didn't he? Before that, but he had to go for it due to the situation.
Yeah.
But when I thought, this is 100% booking coming right up, because he didn't have the legs to get in there, and we were a bit under the cosh at that time as well. To be fair.
Yeah, but it's good to see him apologise. I think it was just a tired. It was a tired tackle. It wasn't a malicious tackle, you know.
Yeah, and then we had Jesse Lingard on for Marcus Rashford. Again, looked like it could have been Bruno, and Tuchel actually brought on Mount and someone else in the end. He put James over to the left to try and squeeze something out of the game. And at this stage, Scott, I was gasping. I literally gasping out loud every time Bruno went in for a tackle, because he was a yard off the pace. I was I was like, oh my god, it was ridiculous. Look, it was Chelsea's to win, wasn't it? With 5 minutes to go, they were putting on the pressure. It didn't really look like we were going to pinch something. De Gea flapped at a high.
I thought it was going to be Big Rom. I thought Romelu Lukaku was going to come on and score against us.
Yes. Yeah, I was worried about that too. But yeah, we had De Gea flapping, and then up the other end, we had Mendy giving the ball away to Fred. First of all, Fred, fair play for winning the ball back. That was great play.
Yeah. I don't think you can say what. I don't think
it was good. It was good. You know, like you win the ball back in that area. That's good play. However, that I'm not even going to call it a chip, Scott. I mean, I think that is the worst chip I've pretty much seen.
Oh yeah, it wasn't really a chip. It was just a. It was embarrassing. It was the only player I didn't want to. You know, the last player you wanted it to. Because even Bailly would have tried something, or would have tried something amazing and would have pulled off. You know, like John O'Shea did at Highbury. But that was, yeah.
I mean, I would have just put it in with the outside of my right foot, but that's me, isn't it?
Yeah, you know? I would have maybe taken a couple of touches and passed it.
Into Ronaldo?
Yeah, because
on his head.
Was Ronaldo the guy with 799 career league goals standing right next to you?
I would just say, beg your pardon, I would just say that, dear me, bit of a cough there.
Wasn't that
funny? I would just say that he just needs to shoot hardly ever, doesn't he, now? That's got to be
You
the
talk
directive.
about De Gea's confidence. Well, I think Fred's confidence of shooting has been in the mud for his United career. Would you say? Because I mean, I can still watch. You still watch videos of him playing for Donetsk and smashing in free kicks from 40 yards or 30
Yeah.
yards.
Yeah, I mean, he's still smiling, isn't he? Still looks like he believes in himself. But yeah, something has to be done about that because it's stupid. It's like in other sports. You have certain players. You just say that the amount of balls you give away from this situation means that you should just not do it anymore, right? And there is almost always a better option than Fred shooting because we have a chance of scoring if he takes the other option, right? If he shoots, we have no chance.
Yeah, but they say the same about Matic, and every now and then,
No.
every couple of years, he sticks one in the top corner.
No.
I know, mate.
No.
Listen,
How
honestly
many
think,
shots does Matic have per game? Very, very few.
yeah,
So if you look at the percentage of goals to shots, Matic is all right for a defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
Fred, no. But I do agree with what you said earlier, and I meant to say at the time that when Fred and McTominay play in those positions, the attack dog position, and they have a DMF, that is when they play at their best. That's when you get your best out of McTominay and your best out of Fred. Of course, Sky gave the man of the match to McTominay, but that is the best position for both of them, and having Matic there does help massively.
Because neither one of them can defend very well.
Yeah,
but Fred can't shoot very well, and he's going to be. You've got to think he's going to be fun. He's going to be one of the first of the ones replaced.
Maybe he will have a different role, right? That like I say, when McTominay and Fred are
I don't think you can make it that better. Make him that much better. I don't know. I don't.
Or is it possible that the coaching staff and the management have made him worse because when he left Shakhtar, Guardiola wanted him, didn't he?
Well, yeah, I think that's the only reason why Mourinho bought him was because Guardiola, and that didn't work too well with Sanchez either, did it? I'm pretty sure Guardiola's just putting these reports out, being like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get Fred," and then Mourinho went and spent 55 million quid on him. Didn't even want him, and then he said the same about Sanchez. But honestly, if he was able to turn something around fantastically, then you would have thought he would have stuck one in the top corner in the last 3 years. You know, I mentioned Matic there, but at least Matic stuck that one in at Crystal Palace those years ago when we won 3-2. What a goal that was! I think that
what I'm suggesting is that Fred just doesn't shoot anymore, so we forget all about the goals, and we forget about playing him as a defensive midfielder. And we use him as a maybe not first choicer, but as someone who can do the job like he did yesterday, hassling and harrying, getting into those positions where he's not required to have a 90 plus pass percentage and where he's not required to have the discipline. Because really with Fred and McTominay, it's the discipline and the knowledge of that defensive midfield position that I think they lack, as well as the passing ability, of course. So
yeah, but that player that you just mentioned is like a soft core and Herrera. I mean, I think that we're comparing that tenacious midfielder to Herrera, who was so great in that role.
Yeah,
that Fred
and who actually played every match in the honeymoon period. Remember,
yeah.
So Ollie played that formation with Herrera as the attack dog, and then a month later he went to PSG. So
yeah, it was funny. TC driving home for Thanksgiving. Went to the wife's families and listened to an old podcast that we did two years ago, mate. It was after that Newcastle game that Longstaff scored and we lost 1-0.
Okay,
and it is unbelievable because it is just the same regurgitation of what we've been saying for 2 years, and it was right around the time that Herrera was Player of the Month, and he was let out the door 2 months later, and that was the beginning of. And I think that was the first few months of Ollie's first full season, and the writing was already on the wall, mate, and that was over 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, and the problem is, as fans, we also have a job to support, don't we? Mm-hmm. So it's not like we work for Sky or BT and we can just go all in on someone and we don't care about the result. We do care about the result, and when it was obvious that nothing is going to change, then we have to do what's best for United, and that's just get behind everyone, right? Mm-hmm. And then when it gets really bad, you say we really need to make a change, and then in the end, the powers that be catch up, and we lose 2 years basically.
Yeah.
But look, mate, we as I say, awful chip from Fred. Could have fed it into Ronaldo. Could have done so many things. Then Van der Beek came on for Bruno Fernandes, and he brought a little note on for Fred, which of course ensued mayhem, isn't it? So Fred's your communicator, and he was looking, he was pointing around.
It probably said
he
stop.
didn't seem to sort things out, did it?
It said stop effing shooting.
Yeah. And then McTominay was smashed in the face by the ball, wasn't he? And I know I've slammed Luke Shaw in recent weeks. In this situation, I will say, look, he did get it right on the point of the chin and from the side, didn't he? So that can cause you to get a bit groggy. And also in this situation, around the 90th minute, if you get hit in the face by the ball, then by all means, milk it as much as possible. I'm all up for that. So in the Shaw situation, we had a match to win, didn't we? We weren't in a positive situation when that happened. However, when we're holding on at the end of a game and we're pretty much like a point, I'm happy to do that. If I get hit in the face, I like to pretend I'm a hard man, don't I? But I would definitely. So I excuse McTominay for that, even though I slammed Shawsy a few weeks ago for it.
I think it as well. He got hit sort of on the jaw, right? That
did.
It's very different pain than getting hit square like on the forehead with a ball. I think Shaw was more square in the forehead. That's
what I'm saying, Scott.
That would be it's like when someone slaps you on the back when you've got out the pool or something. It's uncomfortable, but it doesn't necessarily hurt. But one on the chin can maybe knock you out.
He did look like he had a bit of he had gone a bit starry-eyed, didn't he?
Yeah.
So we'll give him a break on this one, and then of course we had on the 92nd minute, Scott. We had Ronaldo was arguing, wasn't he, about who should get the ball back from the drop ball. Now this is what confuses me, Scott. Right, because the whole point of a drop ball in the first place was you didn't know who should have the ball, wasn't it? So we had a drop ball. But now the ref chooses who has the ball anyway. So why don't they just give a free kick?
Yeah. The old school Roy Keane drop balls when he used to actually go in there and
wait. I tell you what, Rooney, one drop ball Rooney did.
Yeah.
He basically just sliced through the shins of the other guy and then went and made a sliding challenge on the touchline straight after. Remember that one?
Yeah, I do. I can't believe he wasn't sent off for that.
It was bonkers. Yeah. It was absolutely bonkers. I mean, imagine VAR back in the day with our fiery characters.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Like on the VAR, dear me. But yeah, so I would say it's a stupid rule, isn't it, Scott? It's daft.
Yeah, it is, definitely.
Mental.
It is.
So you and Ronaldo gets booked for it. Bring back this drop ball for me. I think it was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but
no one ever got properly injured from it.
We're not making that decision.
No,
it was annoying to give them the ball and potentially one more chance, because that's when you're thinking, right, here we've got a point here.
Yes, yeah, and then we had a free kick, and Bailly got booked for time wasting.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a bit harsh on Bailly because there was someone on the ball first. They moved out the way. Bailly had only just arrived on the ball. He did one hesitation, and the ref booked him straight away, didn't he? So
I think the ref was just getting wound up, and he just wanted someone to book.
He booked Tuchel as well just before. He was going wild, wasn't he? Everyone.
Yeah, because what was that about? It was about a corner that wasn't. Or he was offside. Yeah, I thought we were going to score from that corner.
No, it was when. Yeah, so Ronaldo was offside.
Yeah,
they played on, but because he didn't have a shot.
Yeah,
because he didn't have a shot, the linesman didn't put his flag up. So the move never finished, basically. So a ridiculous rule.
These offside rules have got to change, pal.
Crazy. Another attack broke down on Jesse Lingard again. Wasn't great when he came on. And then Ronaldo stuck in a good tactical foul, which I'm pretty sure he would have got booked for if he hadn't been booked a few minutes before. And then the big moment, Scott, far post. I must admit, with the way he hit it, I thought it was Lukaku, big old swing of that right foot. And I wish it was as well, but it was Rudiger. And luckily it was Rudiger because it was walloped way over. 1-1, Scott. We take the points and we enter a new era on somewhat of a high. So overall, not too much to complain about. You got a man of the match for me?
Overall, not too much to complain. Overall, chuffed to bits. Chuffed to bits. We have been hemorrhaging points, goals. We haven't had a game plan for 2 years, and now we go against the best drilled team in the Premier League at the moment, European champions, away from home without our best centre-backs, and not lose, mate. I'm so happy with this result. And it just, we all should be. And as hard as it was to see the back of Ollie Solskjaer and as much personal feelings as we all have towards him, blah, 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 we just got we all want to see United win. That's all Ollie wants as well, right? If anyone really wants to get sentimental, all Ollie wants is for United to do well as well. And it's just, to see us turn a corner, mate, is... you know how much United mean to me, and when we're doing crap, my life isn't as happy as it usually is. Yeah. And so, what a result! You say not too much to complain about. I say I'm chuffed to bits. I've got a bunch of man of the matches, but I'm going to give one to David De Gea, keeping us in the game, and one to Jadon Sancho for scoring the goal.
Both big bottles.
No. Jadon will get my little one. Don't get carried away. But you got a lot more coming that way, Jadon. Don't you worry. I know you're a big listener of the podcast. Playing fantastic, mate. Yeah.
Yes, mate. I would. You know what? I would say that I feel the same way as you. Of course, I was delighted, and actually, it also feels like a weight's been lifted off our shoulders as well, doesn't it?
It does.
We feel liberated as fans. Imagine how the players feel. So, I would say, De Gea kept us in the game. I tell you what. That save he did from the free kick, that James free kick, I didn't mention it in detail, when he whizzed it over and it bounced and it was bouncing up into the top corner, and the amount of times you see keepers just rooted to the spot, looking at it going, well, I couldn't have saved that, could I? And De Gea to get up into that top corner, same top corner that he plucked that Juan Mata free kick out of all those years ago, I think it might have been the other end. But what a save. What a save that was.
Yeah, it was reminiscent of his game at Tottenham a few years ago when he was closed on Sundays. Do you remember that? This one, I guess he was closed on Sundays in London again, and it only took a tricky
penalties
penalty.
Only.
Yeah, only took a tricky penalty as well. I think if the guy had a regular run up, he would have saved it. Knowing David these days. But yeah,
Dav.
I think sorry, Dav. I was trying to say Dave, but I didn't. It's weird, isn't it? It's not David. It's either David or Dave. It's weird. David, yeah. He's going to win Player of the Year for us again this year, isn't it?
We will see. We will see. I think I would say I'll have to give it to Sancho. I'll have to give it. He's arrived in these last couple of games, hasn't he?
Yes.
I'd have to give it to Sancho. I really would. And De Gea, smaller bottle maybe. Anyone else?
Eric Bailly thought was great.
Well, McTominay got the.
I always loved Bailly.
Yeah, me too, mate. Me too. But he is 28 now, isn't he? And I think we still think he's 23.
Oh, Eric Bailly? Oh, I know, but I think, he always gives 100%. He makes some crazy decisions, but they're not they're
fun, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're fun.
They don't concede us a lot of goals, and
give them a break.
In fact, he had a fantastic game at Chelsea a few years ago. Do you remember that? When he did that, he did that weird turn and went on a 30-yard run from his own box.
An outrageous overhead kick clearance that day as well. Didn't he?
Do you remember? Yeah, and then he had another eventful game against Chelsea, didn't he? In that semi-final that he got knocked Spark out.
Oh my God!
Or he knocked someone Spark out.
He knocked someone out, and then he got knocked out, right? Yeah. Or the other way around. He was just going in headfirst on everyone.
Yeah.
Oh God! I love watching him. It's fun.
McTominay did play well as well. You're right. And Matic was good.
Yeah. But what a lovely problem, right? I was winding Ben up in the week saying that I'm going to have to keep an eye on you and Scott, because I think it's always the goal scorers who get man of the match awards, right? And David De Gea. So, but this is the team's fault, not ours. I'd love to give it to our central defensive midfielder, because he's blooming got 95% passing, and we've kept a clean sheet, and he's got an assist. And he's basically pulled the strings. I'd love to do that. The amount of times I used to give Keno man of the match. The amount of times, actually, I went to Old Trafford and we were in the car on the way back. We always used to do the man of the match, of course, right? Mm-hmm. The amount of times it was Roy Keane. Yeah. Ridiculous.
It's funny.
You said the same, right?
Yeah, we used to do the same thing. We'd always go through who we thought played the best. And Keane would always be the third or the fourth one, but you'd always just say, well, Keane was fantastic again, wasn't he? Didn't put a foot wrong, but you sort of just expected it. But that performance that he gave, he expected from everyone else as well, and that's why the standards were so high. And it starts with the captain. I think that's where a lot of his frustration comes. I know it was comedic seeing him go against Jamie Carragher like he is, but I think he's maybe being a bit too close towards Ollie. And but as we can see from his time, his sort of refusal to get over the Alex Ferguson argument that he has.
Yeah,
He's his
and
own man.
Fergie doesn't want to get over it either, though. To be fair, I think they're both as stubborn as each other, aren't they? But it was interesting listening to him because he was saying, they asked him, didn't they, would you take the job? And he said, people forget I was actually quite a good manager, and I feel I can go in and sort a dressing room out, no problems. But I'm obviously not going to get offered it. And what he means is that he's not going to get offered it because, of course, there are people within the club, Fergie, one of them, who would not want it, right? But when I'm sure if I was Keno and I saw blooming Mark Hughes's name being thrown around, I'd pull a blooming hissy fit too.
Yeah.
You think Mark Hughes is better to come into United than me? You're having a laugh on you.
Yeah.
Absolute laugh.
I don't
Hughes
think
who went to City, Hughes who went to Chelsea and started saying, oh, what about United? I support Chelsea too.
Yeah.
I think he said I support...
He managed
No
City,
way.
mate. Come on, he managed
City. What?
Yeah. He managed City. I mean, you can't...
Rubbish.
Yeah.
No, total rubbish. So I do get why Keane was a bit annoyed.
But Roy Keane loves Roy Keane more than he loves Man United, right?
Maybe.
So he definitely does. So he doesn't want United. He doesn't want United to succeed like you and I do, though, pal. He'd maybe like for it to happen and this and that, but it doesn't keep him a night like it does you and me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we are mental, aren't we?
Well, yeah,
we are mental. But yeah, I know what you mean. But at the same time, of course, when you have played for the club, we don't know, do we? We don't know the true feelings. And if Fergie still loved Keno, I think we'd see a totally different Keno, wouldn't we? We'd see him defending United from all quarters. Because even though it ended badly with United, even though Fergie and Keno are still estranged, he still does talk about we, doesn't he? He still says, I don't want to play. Who would you rather play for, Guardiola or Klopp? Well, neither, because I don't want to play for City or Liverpool. So he is, for a player, he's pretty high up there in terms of everything. But it's pathetic, wasn't it? Though Sky it's a pantomime now, just stirring it up between all those ex-players. It's going to end in tears, I think.
It will. And Souness is just sitting back there, like he's enjoying.
He's a calm one these days, isn't he? It's ridiculous. Listen, mate, let's get stuck in a little bit more to this announcement that came through today. Of course, we have a 6-month contract for Rangnick with a 2-year consultancy contract after that. I'd suggest that first 6 months will dictate what those 2 years to come will look like after that. Of course, if we go wild and everything goes perfectly, then the influence for those 2 years to come will probably be quite extreme. However, if things don't go quite as well, then we have got a bit of room to manoeuvre. But mate, we've got someone in who is renowned around the world, isn't he? I was thinking in the week how mental the world has gone. Remember back in the day when you signed a player, you couldn't even get a compilation of a player, could you?
Yeah.
Right? There was nowhere to watch it. And then YouTube came along. We started watching player compilations and stuff like this. I watched a manager compilation this week, Scott.
What, just of him shouting?
YouTube? No. It was him talking about his philosophies. Yeah. And while he was talking, they showed footage of his team's plays and stuff like that. So I'll send it to you if you want, mate, after the pod. Bloody good watch.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Did you watch that Gary Neville compilation that came out a few weeks ago?
The Friends one?
Yeah, the Friends one, yeah. That was a bloody good compilation, that one too.
But seriously, there's a cool compilation. I'll send it to you. And yeah, you just go through his philosophy. He's very, very defined as to what his philosophy is. He also shows a good bit of flexibility. He's not one of these managers who says, you've got to fit into me. We both fit together. So look, of course, the one thing you would say is that has he ever managed a big club, right?
Yeah.
That would be what you'd level at him. I know that Chelsea and AC Milan tried to get him, I think last year or the year before. I presume the Chelsea, when Chelsea went for him, they had Lampard. That would make sense, wouldn't it?
Okay.
And AC Milan, of course, are looking to rebuild. So Rangnick has shown a desire to wake a sleeping giant. And we've also talked to him as well, haven't we? Previously, I believe 3 or 4 years ago, I think possibly after Mourinho went,
Okay.
Fergie met with him and we talked to him as well. He's actually got quite a good relationship with Woodward as well.
Okay.
So this is not just who's the best out there or, who can we get? There is a little bit more behind this appointment than meets the eye.
Good. And I think that this is a good possibility of just adding a bit more fight to the team, pal, because I think that for 2 years it's just been lifeless. I think Rangnick and Van Gaal sort of have some similarities in their histories and what have you, but maybe what you said earlier about him adapting to his philosophy. I think Van Gaal was a bit steadfast in his philosophy, and that was his philosophy or no philosophy. And this is really exciting. I can't wait. I can't wait for it. I can't wait for Thursday, which is strange. For the last few months, you haven't been looking forward to United games as much as normal, but now it's the desire is back.
Yeah, and of course, as with United, I don't know any other club who ever talks about visas. Like everyone else just signs people. Like no one else's manager has to get a visa, do they? It's just sorted.
It's to appease the fan base.
It's so stupid, Scott. Yeah. Honestly, what we do basically is we announce people too early when it's not finished because we're desperate and we want to show that we've done something, and then we start trying to sort out all the details. It's craziness, It's Varane waiting for a work permit. Rangnick waiting. What do you mean waiting for a work permit? That should have been done so long ago. And then we say, "Oh, thanks so much to Moscow for their thoughtfulness in this bit." It's like, come on.
It was the same with Ollie, wasn't it?
So stupid, honestly.
We were kissing Mulder's arse for about a month, saying thanks so much for Ollie, and they were like, "Thank you."
Yeah, give us a few more million, you can keep him for free. Yes, mate, and of course, the big thing that Rangnick has done is take over those Red Bull clubs. And I think the fireworks are going off here, so apologies for the background.
Someone's trying to bang in the door. One of the disgruntled podcast listeners.
Here's your 1 star. Yeah, but look, he's gone to the Red Bull clubs, and they're Champions League regulars now, aren't they?
Yeah,
so they've gone from being nobodies. And one thing I'll say, Scott, I know you're a massive F1 fan. Red Bull are blooming good at finding talent, and they're blooming good at finding people who can develop talent. And if he's the guy they've gone to, they will have done their due diligence. They really will have. You know from the Red Bull team, right, in the Formula One.
Yeah. Bloody good drinks too.
Yeah. And, if he's going to miss, the Red Bull that gives him wings, we have got wings in Manchester. So if he needs wings, give Van Gaal a call. And he can be sorted.
Are you just doing like one pun an episode now? Because I heard your I don't even want to say it, but your stew joke was just horrific, Tom. I mean, come on.
It was pretty bad, wasn't it?
Oh, I know you've just adopted a dog, but these dad jokes are getting even worse.
Mate, to be honest with you, I've been getting messages saying, "Oh, I'm glad you cheered up again." Because I was always the positive one, wasn't I, Scott? I was the one who, but it got so bad. So bad. We both turned into the negative one. Well, so it's almost like I'm released, So I'm just misbehaving a little bit.
It's funny. I was backing up an old phone the other day, and I found these notes, and it was like I wrote out this monologue for like the first podcast episode, and it was like sort of giving a bit of our history of United and what this and that. And I remember writing in it something like, "We're not one of those fans who'll just say, well, we can do better. We're just here to support the team." And here I am listening 2 years later, 3 years later. I'm like, mate, I could do so much bloody better than this. So
I'm talking about sticking shots in the top corner with the outside of my right foot,
Yeah, so
I'm harder than him. It's ridiculous.
So we've both changed a little bit for the better, maybe.
Yes, absolutely, mate. But look, it's super exciting, isn't it? I'm sure everyone can tell from our voices and just the reaction from people. It's a positive decision, and although the powers that be at the club, they may not be fit for purpose. At least they're not trying to sabotage us, right? It's not sabotage; it's just incompetence, I think, and that's what I've been thinking over the last few days. They do chuck, a bit of our money at it, of course, not their money, but it really is incompetence rather than sabotage, and hopefully, you sling enough of it, and eventually some sticks.
Yeah, but again, because you said years ago, if the Glazers just realised how much money they would make if we were on top of the world and winning championships, then they would maybe put a bit more effort into getting us back up to that level.
Yes, because we would be by far and away the most valuable sports club. We really would, mate.
Yeah.
Because we've been stinking the place out for years, and we're still there and thereabouts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
but look, we've got someone who is going to change the direction of the club, and mate, we watched, didn't we? We watched the Scousers do it in the 90s, and we giggled and we laughed, and we were like, yeah, keep Roy Evans. Oh, don't sack Roy Evans. Get Houllier to help him, right? That was brilliant, wasn't it? Houllier and Evans, joint managers. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Ridiculous. How low can you sink? And we've been doing the same. We laughed at them, but we've been doing the same.
Oh, mate, yeah, and I think every team in the league were telling Arsenal to keep Arsene Wenger at the very end.
Yeah,
which is it's banter.
More their own
it's
fans,
banter, but obviously it was. But I mean, we were certainly saying, he shouldn't go anywhere. I'm so glad that we've made this decision, this change before Arsenal, because even though that we're not battling for titles with them, most of my mates are Arsenal fans, and when we lose against Arsenal, it's hell for a few months. So,
and honestly, Scott, when you think about it, you look at the table now, even with just picking up that point, and you look at the teams around us, and you think, how did we wait so long to sack? It was so stupid. It was mental. And thank God, we picked up that point. We stopped Chelsea pulling further ahead. But when you look at that league table, Scott, it was. I mean, we started the game against Chelsea in 10th position, and we hadn't played any without Ollie.
Yep. I know.
10th position is where the new manager basically started the Premier League.
So if anyone's got a minute, go to soccerbase.com and you look at United's results, and they give you like a tree when it says win, loss, draw, and you can just see that for months there's just no wins, and it goes back like 3 or 4 times in the last couple of seasons that we'll go through a spell of 10, 12 games and not win maybe 1 or 2 of them. And I remember those games, they were crap. It was a game, Watford at home, that we got 2 Pogba penalties or something like that. And that was the only win we had all month.
Yeah.
Or for 2 months. It was crazy. And I think that's maybe part of why we're so happy, is just the fact that we know we don't have to deal with that dross anymore. We know we don't have to deal with these jokey press conferences, that we're not laughing anymore. We're not laughing when our team is just plummeting down the league. So these jokes and these, give us a real reason. Don't give us, the goalpost must have been moved, because they obviously haven't. Just give us a real bloody reason.
Yeah, mate. I know what you mean. I know, and the sad thing is looking back, he probably knew for those last few games, and he was just thinking, just put me out of my misery.
But do something about it. Don't go on bloody holiday. Do something about it.
You're right. No, I do agree. And I do think, actually, and of course the away fans were singing a lot for Ollie at the weekend, and that's fine on the first game back. But we should probably not be too over the top with that in the weeks to come, because this is about moving forward, and everyone's trying to look back and say, but he did a great job and blah blah. The reason he went is because he got sacked. The reason he went is because we were in 10th position starting the next match.
Yeah, last time I checked, you're the only one still singing Moisey's song. We turned that corner. We got to turn this corner as well.
Will I sing my new Rangnick one now, or leave it a few weeks?
Is it? So a side joke, for about 15 years now, you've been trying to worm someone's name into the Robbie Williams Angels song by saying, I'm loving Moisey, or I'm loving Jose instead, or something.
Ollie instead.
And now it's Ralphie. So yeah.
You bloody love it. You're the only one who gets to listen to it, Scott. So you just get voicemails all the time, don't you?
15 years of this drivel. Yeah. But
Don't pretend I don't make you laugh every day,
no,
mate.
you do, mate. No.
Anyway, Pat, anything else to add?
Not really. I was obviously devastated that Spurs didn't play, given I just put Harry Kane in my fantasy team.
Oh, Scott. Oh, mate.
Yeah.
Join me. I captained him.
Yeah, me too.
I captained him, and I saw, of course, Salah didn't have a great day, so I thought, oh, fantastic. This is a chance now.
Didn't even play.
No. And I tell you what, yeah, go on.
I had Son as my vice captain, so I didn't even get a captain.
You're joking.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You'll learn your lesson. Don't ever put the same captain on the same team, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm learning my lesson. Don't play with your heart. You got to play with your head. So yes. I've got most of my United play. I can't get Mason out because I love him too much.
I have to hold my hands up. I woke up 3 minutes before the deadline.
Yeah.
And I'd already planned everything. But I thought I'd wait to see if there's any injuries or anything. And then when it came to it, there was 3 minutes to do everything. And it was too much of a panic, Scott. I didn't know what I was doing.
Oh, you're too flustered.
I was too flustered. I was, mate. I was. So I panicked. I panicked, Scott.
And you slammed the computer down and ran out the room. Yeah.
Yeah. So I transferred out Saka, so he scored after about 12:45. And Brandon Williams, who got a clean sheet and 3 bonus points.
Yeah, I took him out too. There is a game tomorrow, so the deadline will be tomorrow, not Wednesday, because there is a game tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
No worries.
But I did choose the right keeper. That was good. So I went for Sanchez of Brighton instead of Guaita.
It's very unrealistic. It's unrealistic, the fancy, because they only let you put one keeper on the bench.
I know.
Yeah,
I'd have 3 if I had my way.
Oh, I'd have them all. I'd have 15 keepers out there, TC.
But there has been some bloody good performances recently in the FPL. So I think I've slipped down to 4th or 5th now.
I very, very briefly went up to 19th, but then I'm back down to 20th out of 22. Okay. So stinking it out, just keeping everyone company down there. Yeah,
you are indeed. But yeah, fair play. Some good play, and look now. You've got to be thinking about worming some United players back in that side, haven't you? Who's going to be, if you'd seen Sancho coming, you could have got a bargain. So there's a lot of things changing.
Yeah.
You never know who Rangnick might... And another big thing before we leave about Rangnick is that he loves a youth player. And, your Greenwoods, your Rashfords, big time. We are looking at someone who wants to develop those kind of players, and for all the love that Ollie got in terms of developing youth players, he's got a very sorry record.
What about Angel Gomez? Is it too late for him?
Yeah. So Greenwood, of course, was a nailed on, but apart from him, there's been no youth players. So even Hannibal, Hannibal's someone you never know. Ralphie might fall in love with him. So yeah, positive times ahead, mate.
I heard he's best mates with Haaland too.
Here we go. Didn't work last time, did he?
No.
How good mates is he?
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see, eh?
And also, Scott, what have we had? One German ever play for United?
Schweinsteiger.
Yeah, we had Ron, didn't we? Ron Zieler was a keeper.
He was a backup keeper. Yeah. I think he played a Coca-Cola
Never played
Cup.
Though, did he?
I think he played a cup game one, did he?
You might be right. I think
But then he actually went to a good team. He was actually a pretty good keeper in Germany for years, wasn't he? He played for I think it was Schalke or someone.
Yeah, but we've had a hell of a shortage of Germans and actually Italians as well, haven't we? Haven't had too many Italians. Of course, we've got the best Italian that ever lived, Kiko Makeda.
Yeah. But then we had one of the worst in Matteo Darmian.
Yeah. So we had a few Italians, but Germans, very few and far between. And now we got German boss, and well, it looks like we're going to have a few more German players as well, I think.
Yeah, bring some efficiency to the team, TC.
You know it, mate.
Yeah,
you know it. Fantastic. Anything else to add, pal?
No, I'm all good, mate. Thank you.
Thanks for listening again, everyone. Make sure you subscribe to the pod, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your pods. Follow our social media, Instagram at United100 Podcast, Twitter at United100 Pod. Remember, follow our Instagram. Keep an eye on the stories after the match because like yesterday, for instance, dropped a thing on the story there just saying that we're going to do the pod today, cover the Rangnick appointment that we hope will happen, and go back over the game. So if you're going to do anything, just follow that Instagram and keep an eye on the stories. If you ever think, where are the boys gone? I'll let you know on there. Of course, like I said earlier, use our promo code United100. You get 10% across the store, vintageunitedshirts.com. We've got another load of shirts coming for Christmas too. So I will let you know on Thursday exactly all the details about the new competition that will be running for the next few weeks as well. If you want to become a member, get over to patreon.com/United100. Check out the different tier system we got there. And Scott will be back after the Arsenal game on Thursday. You know what? I don't think I've been looking forward to a match this much for a long time.
Yeah, me neither, especially not Arsenal.
Yes, mate. Yeah. Well, listen, I'll see if it's you or Ben after the match on Thursday, but we will be back after the match on Thursday. And thanks for joining me again, Scott. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, TC.
Take care. Cheerio, Reds.
Ta-ra.